Awesome.
Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome to monthly interviews now. And this month we've got Caroline with us. I'm sure some of you haven't seen her in a little while, so this is going to be great. So how are you, Caroline?
I'm good, Kath. Yeah, I am.
You keeping well?
We're keeping well. Bath is doing well for us. Yeah, it's a nice place to live. Thank you, Cathy.
Excellent. Well, I am slightly lucky because I do get to come and see you, don't I? So
in fact, you were here literally a day and a half ago. So yeah, we did see each other, and Kath cut my hair. So yeah,
there we are.
Well, yeah.
We are lucky, aren't we? But so everything's okay, and the children are settled into their schools, and
so yeah, they're all at secondary school now, and it's a great school they're at. So yeah, no, they're doing all right. Apart from having to self-isolate for over a week last week, which was a pain, but you know, we're out, we're negative, it's all okay.
That's good. That's good. And what's it like having all three at senior school now? Because you got one at the beginning, one at the end, and one in the middle.
11 year, 9 year, 7, and it is brilliant. I miss primary school drop-offs or pickups. I do not miss that. Although both primary schools they went to were fantastic, but no, I love it. Love the fact that they're all together. Yeah,
it's a different life again, isn't it, when they go off to senior school? And how's Dave getting on? Is he all right?
Dave's all right. Yeah, he's working out of Keynsham at the moment, so he's doing okay. But we're off this week, so yeah, we're all very relaxed because we've got a whole week off. So it's nice.
Half-term holidays, yay! Yeah. We love them. We love them. So anyway, as you know, when we do these interviews, the main part of it is to find out more about your journey with God, your faith journey, and how everything happened. And I've been really blessed because I've been on a lot of it with you. But there were bits before we met, weren't there? And things that happened before we met. So it would be great if you could just take us on a bit of that journey.
Oh my goodness, you see, this is it, isn't it? How far back do you... You've got to move me on, Kath. If I go too far back, I'm going back. I was going to try then. I had a really great idea of spinning back on my chair, and then I realised I'm actually plugged in to my phone. So yeah, I won't do that. But anyway, I'm going way back. So so I grew up in a half and half Christian home. So my mum was a Christian, and my dad had turned away from faith in his adult life for another complicated reason that I won't go into now. And so I lived in a house where we were encouraged to go to church, but we weren't allowed to talk about God at home. Like, it was an absolute no, and we knew that, really, that we weren't allowed to talk about it. It was just going to cause arguments and problems. Anyway, so I went to church with my mum, and I actually then started going to a different church when I was a teenager, Christchurch Clifton, a big church in Bristol. I went there for a short while, and I did come to faith as a teenager and gave my life to Jesus and was on fire, actually. And I loved God so very much. And I've got journals of when I was sort of a young teenager of and just chatting to God. And I loved God very much. But as we often know from knowing lots of young people, that can just go a little bit skewy. And unfortunately, I got a little bit lost and I couldn't talk about what questions I had at home because we weren't allowed to talk about God. And I couldn't talk about it in church because I just didn't feel like I had those relationships really with people. And then I was being distracted by a whole lot of stuff, as in going out and meeting boys. And I just feel like I fell through the gaps. Yeah. So it's a bit of a tragic story, really. And then I did still love God, but I do remember at 17, and I remember the particular day and where I was in college. I went to St. Brendan's Sixth Form College, and I remember literally just going, I'm done. I've got too many questions, and nobody's talking to me about them, and I didn't feel able to ask the questions. And I'm talking about big questions. I'm talking about, why is there so much suffering in the world? And why are there all these other religions, slightly different viewpoints? And why do I think my viewpoint is the correct viewpoint? All that stuff. But you name it, I had the question. And the people who were talking to me about those questions were people who were not Christians. And so I kind of fell through the gaps and I turned away from God. And that went on for a very, very long time. So I was about 17 until I was in my early 30s. And that is kind of when I met Cathy. So we skipped. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time we met properly, was it Anya's christening?
Yeah, so we knew each other before from the toddler group, because I'd given up full-time work when I'd had Ted, and our eldest, and who lots of you will know, our wonderful Ted, who's now 15, and we didn't have much money, and so like a lot of parents do, they find really cheap toddler groups to entertain their children.
Locking Castle.
And we lived in Western Village at the time, and we went to lots of toddler groups, but the ones that I liked the most were the ones run by Christians. And I wouldn't at the time have kind of even said that, really. It's just the ones I liked, they were those ones. And Locking Castle was my favourite toddler group. And while we were there, had Felicity, and then subsequently Pippa. But yeah, the first time that I came back to church, a church service, which is so significant for me in my faith journey, because a sign at Locking Castle Toddler Group, which used to be on the hatch in the hall, and it used to advertise the all-age service once a month. And that sign used to stare at me every week for about a year and a half, I reckon. And it literally used to glare at me. I used to get quite cross in my head. I was thinking, why is that sign staring at me? This is so annoying. Whatever, I don't want to go to this all-age service. And literally that sign battered me down, Kath. And I was like, one day I went home and I thought, fine, I'll go to that service, fine. Anyway, I ended up going to this all-age service, which turned out to be Anya's baptism.
Yeah.
And I walked in. I know, it's really cool. And I walked in, and I have never, well, no, I have felt such things since, but literally God just overwhelmed me. I felt burdens lift immediately in ways we haven't got time to go into now, really, but I felt God literally welcome me home.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was coming home. And at the very same time I was feeling all this, Adele was running down from the front of church, down the church, to give me a great big hug. And she said, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
And that was my first time at Locking Castle Church, and to a service because I was coming to meet with God, not because I was going to somebody's funeral or baptism or wedding, whatever. I was coming because I felt like I wanted to be there to meet God again. And that was, well, how old's Anya now? Because she was a tiny baby.
Yeah, she was 3 months old that day. So, and she's now about to turn 13 in December.
So it's a while ago. Yeah, and that really was the start of my journey, because it certainly wasn't the end of it. And there was a lot of stuff and a lot of questions still, and I did for course, and I was able to actually ask some of those questions, and just to kind of go, do you know what, I've had this issue for so many years, and can you give me the Christian perspective on this? And it didn't answer everything, but it was like this beginning point of me going, okay, I'm ready to ask the question. I'm ready, God. Because I have to say, in all those years that I literally turned my back on God, I did at 17. I went, I'm not doing it anymore. I've had enough. It wasn't to say that I didn't encounter God all those years. And I probably would have said I still believed in something. It's just I wasn't interested in hearing what God had to say to me. That was probably the of it.
Yeah. And everyone's different, aren't they? Where some people will, from their teenage years, dip in and dip out. Some people will turn away completely, and some people manage to stay. And
I just wish I
yeah, and I wish I had. I was a dip in and out because I moved around, well, the world so much. Everywhere I went, I would go and try that church out. but then I'd be moved on again. So I never really settled. And like you, that first time in Locking Castle Church, it just overwhelmed me. The goosebumps, the warmth, the love. And back then we only had about 20 people in the congregation, but it was so lovely.
Shockingly, that day, that first day that I came to church, it was not 20 people, it was absolutely packed. So it was probably like Locking Castle these days. Well, pre-COVID.
Well, it was one of those good days where it was full of Christians and non-Christians together, which we love, don't we? Bringing them all together. So it was just a fabulous day. But and then we carried on an amazing journey then, didn't we? Because we had a life group called the Real Life Group, and I really feel we were so blessed. What were your feelings on that journey with our life groupers?
Well, I do remember the day that Adele asked me if I was interested and come along to it, because I was sat in Locking Castle Toddler Group, sat in our little circle in the hall, because it wasn't a big toddler group at the time. I loved it. And I remember Adele just came, would you like to come to this group, like women? And I remember just feeling so loved in that moment, to be honest. And that is why I loved that toddler group anyway, because it was full of wonderful Christian women who just loved us, and they loved our children, and they loved us for who we were. And I would say my main memory of that group was being accepted. Like there was no condition. My children were accepted and they were loved, and I was accepted as a child of God and loved. And you know, they must have known we were going to be going on a massive journey, Kath, at the time, you know, and we probably asked some very old questions. But I just remember everything we asked or everything we said was just held with this sense of grace, you know, and just let's talk about that. Let's enter into that conversation. So it was the complete opposite to how I'd felt at 17, when all my questions just weren't really answered and were kind of nobody wanted to talk to me. That's how I felt then. And then this complete turnaround with that wonderful women's group, and we did have great conversations.
We did. Yeah. It was amazing, wasn't it? Amazing to learn how close our lives now were with women in the Bible. That's one that really sticks in my mind when we did that. And
me too. Yeah, amazing, really. And actually, you know, and wonderful that we get to still be friends, and that is how we sort of met, which is just amazing, isn't it? It's wonderful.
Yeah. So from our Real Life group, all our lives started changing, because in our group it was me, it was you, it was Emily, we had Mandy, who was our lead minister's wife at the time. Ruth, who Ruth is married to Jeremy, and they're now down in Truro. He's a minister down there. And we've all gone on different journeys, but we're all wrapped up in God's arms, which is amazing, isn't it? And so your journey continued, and of course we all want to know about you. And Adele was definitely a core part of spreading and giving and sending all these messages to us, because she was leading our life group back then. She's just amazing. Yeah. But how did you feel from there? Where did your journey go? Because we're here talking about yours this week.
Well, where did it go from there? I'm trying to even think. I don't know. I had another child, Pippa.
Yeah, Pippa in the middle of it. Yeah.
Yes. So, actually, I remember I was on an Alpha course at the time, and I had Pippa and missed 1 week, I think, of Alpha, and I brought her the next week in the baby carrier, because I was like, I need to be here. I need to know this stuff. Anyway, by the by. So things moved on. I mean, you know, God worked with me a lot. You know, when you spend time away from God, you've built up some stuff that needs to be dealt with. And so, you know, me and God had a lot of talking. We did a lot of thinking. And it kind of all then moved on, shifted on a bit faster. Really, when the Yakimenis arrived at Locking Castle Church, just before they arrived, I was thinking, oh, these youth, nobody's with the youth. What's up with all this? And I was thinking, I don't even want to be with the youth. Why do I mind? And literally, God would not let it lie. He kept saying, what about the youth? And I'd go, what about the youth? I don't know about the youth. So I started to get this real fire about something needs to happen with these young people. And then lo and behold, a matter of weeks, months, I don't know, you know what it's like. You don't really remember timelines in this, do you? Just remember God working with you. And they turned up, and apparently there was loads of youth coming with them. And I was like, hang on a sec. That's a bit weird. Why has God been putting this on my heart? And anyway, the long story is, or the short story is, that I ended up taking on the youth work at Locking Castle. And I ended up doing the youth and children's stuff for a while as well. And that was a brilliant 3 years. It was amazing. And we had great fun. And we got to just have so much.
3 years.
Say it again, sorry.
It was a very busy, fast 3 years.
Yeah, you know, when there's those times when you feel like God's put a rocket and attached you to you, and you're like, hang on a sec, what are we doing? Oh, all right then.
Yeah.
Let's go. That's how it felt the whole time, that we were just rocketing.
He does. He sticks you on a roller coaster, lights a rocket that's on the back of it, and off you go. And where it stops, you'll never know.
No, exactly. And my whole thing while I was at Locking Castle doing that was, you know, it was a whole load of trust, a lot of trust. And so it was a lot of, God, what do you want us to do now? Because we started with very much kind of a blank piece of paper, really. And it was just really exciting. It was the most exciting 3 years of seeing where God wanted to take that group of young people and what he wanted us to do with it. And so for me, it will just always stay as a very, very precious time. I wasn't expecting to go into youth work. I was a dance and drama teacher for years. I loved my job. I was ready to go back to teaching. I mean, I had no intention of doing anything else, and so then to suddenly be, thrown into youth work. I was a teacher, but I'd never done any theology. I was like, I don't know if I know anything, but God provides. And that was my mainstay for those 3 years, that God provided every time he'd come up with a new idea, because I genuinely say they weren't my ideas, they were God's ideas. And I'd be like, really? And then I'd be like, well, God, if you want us to do that, then you're going to have to sort of provide someone, because I can't do it all. And then God would literally highlight somebody in some way or another, and I'd be like, oh, interesting. I'll go and ask him then. That's genuinely how I did the 3 years. I prayed a lot and said, well, I don't know how you want me to do that. But God is amazing. When you really are watching and listening, paying attention, and actually just saying, well, God, show me. Because I genuinely can't do all these things by myself. I've got no idea even how to do that, and God provides. And so it was an amazing 3 years, and I was very sad to leave, I can tell you. I still miss you all very much.
Well, I am hoping they're all watching right now, because they do miss you so much. But they, of course, understand the journey you then went on.
Yes, then it went further.
You left Locking Castle.
Yeah.
Before you left, something happened.
Hang on, what happened before I left?
Oh
my God!
Leave.
I was thinking, oh no, have I forgotten something? No, yeah, you're totally right, Kath. Hang on. Right. Well, quite interestingly, almost as soon as I started the job as youth pastor, I felt God was saying to me, this isn't it. you got to do this. Because he said to me, that's your job, go get it. And I was like, what? And genuinely, it was like, that's your job, go and get it. And of course, that's a hard thing, isn't it? Because you've got to protect yourself as well in that moment, but I went and got it and got the youth job and loved it. But it just was a bit like, well, I'm just going to enjoy this bit, because this isn't really what it is it? And then Oh, a year and a half late? No. Oh, I can't remember. The times and days go so fast, Kath. I think it was about a year and a half later. Yeah, it was when Dave, my lovely Dave, just preach in church. Dave said, really randomly, I have to say, because he'd just become a Christian, which I wasn't even sure really what had happened because we hadn't really talked about it. And he came home late after a late shift, and I was just reading in bed, and he came in and he sat on my bed and on our bed, and he said, "I think there's something more to this. I think you're called to ordination or ordained ministry." And I was like, right. And then he went out again. That was it. And it was really random. And I was like, that was weird. And I thought, I'm going to go to sleep because that was really weird. And I'm not going to lie, I was hoping he'd never say it again, because for a few months before that, things had been popping into my mind. And I just popped them back out again because I was like, well, who'd want to do that? Being a vicar's like a really hard job. Who wants that job? Leave that to Tom. That's a great job for Tom, not for me. Yeah. Anyway, so Dave said this weird thing, and then unfortunately he said it again. I remember it was like maybe a week later or something, and again I'm sat on my bed, and he's in our ensuite, and he looked around and he said, "Have you thought any more about that thing I said to you?" And I was like, yeah, and it's no. So let's not talk about it anymore. Well, Dave wouldn't let it lie. And for about a year, he'd bring it up every so often at a coffee shop, just sitting and chatting. So you've been thinking about it. And then he'd sort of tease it out of me anyway. So about a year after that, I went, oh, to be honest, again, I'm going to be very honest. I was like, all right. I mean, no one's going to say yes. So, I mean, I'll just say yes then, and we'll just do it, God, because it's unlikely, but I'll trust you and I'll say, all right, I think maybe I am. But I genuinely didn't think anybody would say yes, but they kept saying yes and kept moving me.
We're all smiling because we've all been on that journey, that journey of no. And we then open that opportunity. Okay, then bring it on.
All right.
See what happens, God. I know you're right, but I think.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And what the amazing thing is that actually what then I suppose for me is the amazing bit is then over the next year in particular, I went from feeling like that to an overwhelming sense of yes.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm called to. And I have to say, since then, I haven't stopped feeling more and more excited. And I love it. It's like, when you just step into something and go, this is what I'm made for. This is what you call me to. And it is difficult sometimes, but it's amazing too, and I love it. Yeah,
it's lush, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've always
my rubbish little phone, so I just sort of picked
what you saw was Andy letting us know how long we've got left.
Oh, what? Andy?
It isn't long. I asked for an extension, Caroline, but Andy refused. And Tom and Andy backed him up. 5 minutes.
Yes, Kath, get these questions in.
Yeah. So Caroline, your journey was amazing. And of course, I'm sat here and Andy's sat in the background and in our ears right now. And both of us have been on that same journey, all into different roles that God's called us to. And we've all questioned them. We've all gone through saying no, questioning it, saying yes, and then doing that, well, I'll do this, but it's got to happen, and then I'll believe you. And I've just gone through another one again of I don't quite believe you, but okay, I'll do that journey and see what happens, because if it's your will, then it you know, the right thing will happen. So it's great to see that, you know, that trust we put in God, because when we're praying hard, we're listening hard,
listening, yeah,
and the answers do come. Not
always how you expect them to. And I think my prayer is always with God, well, all right, but I'm only doing it if you're with me.
Yes.
So if you're not with me, I don't want to, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do any of that without you. And so show me what it is. Give me the sense of what it is you want me to do, and I will say yes. But like everybody, I'm I'm not a completely, oh yeah, I'm in for that all the time. I'm like, oh, that sounds a bit tricky. I don't think I really want to do that. But actually, yeah, you have to say yes sometimes just to see, because if it's from God, then it will be good. He gives good things to us. He loves us. He doesn't ask us to do things that he won't be with us doing them with us, so it's not about that. It's about him going with you. And so that is what I've learned, really.
Hence, we don't jump in with 2 feet the first time we hear it. We wait and we listen more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. I love your journey. I mean, I'm just, like I say, blessed that I've been on quite a bit of it with you. And it's just so wonderful. But what we do at the end of these interviews is we do some quick fire questions, so that the guys out there can get to know you a bit more, because some of our youth now at Locking Castle Church don't really know you.
Don't know me at all, Cathy.
Yeah, we've got some new guys, because you've been gone for such a while.
4 years. That's too long. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a question from Andy. He's just asked if he can ask one. As long as he gives us an extra 20 minutes, that's fine.
Okay.
So if a young person is trying to work out, trying to hear God's voice, how do they discern hearing him?
Do you know, it's having people around you who will be able to help you. So one of the reasons why I struggled at 17, well, probably 15 to 17 really, was because I just wasn't putting myself in the right places. I mean, the fact is that we have people all around us who can guide us and give good counsel and mentor us. And, that is the key, is to be praying, to be listening, to be reading scripture. Yes, all those things, but it's paying attention. And it's actually often through voices of people who we trust. And so it's building those sorts of relationships with people that, I had a lot of people around me who were listening. And when I said, oh, I think I'm called, because my husband had already said that, it was okay. Well, let's go test that. Let's go see together. You're not having to do that journey on your own. You are listening and waiting, and be patient. But it's about taking that time to ask the questions, spending time in prayer with others as well as yourself. Don't rely on yourself. Okay, we're not designed to do this life on our own. We are designed to do it together. And I think it's one of the ways that I think that's what happened when I was 17. I was on my own. I'd started to rely on my own voices. And that's not good. We need to be in community, and I'm a firm believer in that. And we need, I don't know, for example, I've got prayer triplet, I've got a prayer squad from different places, and those people are critical to my journey. And there's no doubt about it. And so get in there with other people, pray with others, read scripture, just chat. So I hope that's enough.
No, that's it. And it's so important, because we can't do these things without God. But to hear God, it's not just the scripture, it's not just what we hear or see, it's through other people. And that is so important. And like you, I didn't have, where I was dipping in and out, I didn't build up a community around me to pray. So even though our journeys are that little bit different, it's still the same. Ultimately, we were in a position that we couldn't hear.
Trying to do it on our own, and it's just never going to work. Never going to work. So yeah, highly recommend staying in community. Don't ever try and do it on your own.
Right, definitely. Well, that was a great question from Andy.
Oh, it's a good question, Andy.
But anyway, have we got any others, Andy, on? No, that's fine. That's brilliant. So let's try a couple of these quick fire ones, Caroline. What is your favourite word?
Discombobulated.
Wow. What is your least favourite word?
Can't.
That's mine. What motivates you?
Sweets.
What demotivates you?
Oh, people moaning.
What sound or noise do you love?
People laughing.
Yeah. What sound or noise do you hate?
I don't know this one. I'm so sorry. Oh, yes. YouTube vloggers.
Oh.
Watching in my lounge. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. What is your comfort food?
Oh, crisps. Always crisps. Give me crisps.
Do you like crisp sandwiches like Andy?
I had today. Yeah, it was great. Salt and vinegar, a bit of butter. Nice.
I think Andy's is prawn cocktail.
What?
Yeah. With dairy lily in a sandwich.
Interesting. I might have to try that.
Okay, moving on. What is your hobby?
Dancing.
What job would you like to have?
To be a classical ballerina.
Wow. What would you like to hear God say when you arrive in heaven?
Well done, you've made it.
Lush. I love it. So, Caroline, can you tell everyone, can you still do the splits?
Yes, but I have to warm up quite a lot. I tried it a few years ago without.
I remember when you did it one night when not warming up.
No, Dave challenged me and said, "You can't still do the splits." I said, "Yes, I can." I pulled something.
Yeah, it was pulled for a long time. You were in agony for quite a while.
That was quite a lot of pain. Yeah.
Oh, Caroline, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you. I hope everyone has enjoyed listening to Caroline's journey, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you, because last time you spoke in church, it was during lockdown, wasn't it?
It was the service, back on the 9:30 or the 9 o'clock, whatever time your service is. So I came in and spoke. It was great.
So a lot of us couldn't see you physically in person. So hopefully when you next come to speak, we can.
Sounds great. Sounds good to me.
Well, thank you very much. And guys, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be doing a quiz, I hope. Yes. And we'll see you in. Oh, it's here. I just hear from the cheap seats in the corner. It's the Disney Pixar quiz. So you can either watch the Disney Pixar movies or you can watch some of our assemblies. They're pretty much in line with those. Yeah, not next week, but the week after we'll be doing the quiz. So anyway, take care. And thank you so much, Caroline, for that.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Fantastic. Bless you all. Bye-bye.